Everybody, Ralph Havens here, autoimmuneanswers.com, and today's video session for you, years ago when I was a little kid, my parents actually took me to a neurologist, I believe, a doctor in San Antonio, Texas. We lived about 150 miles away in a little town called Del Rio by the Rio Grande River by Mexico. I was actually born about a mile from Mexico, and funny, my grandparents were born in Mexico, but then I guess they changed the borders and all of a sudden they were Texans. But anyway, I had this dream that just kept happening, a nightmare, where I would be playing marbles or something with a little group of kids, and there'd be a big airplane overhead, and if somebody pushed a button, I knew I was going to be dead. It was the craziest, most crazy, scary nightmare that I had. And it had it over and over again, just total terror. So my parents took me to a neurologist to try to make sure I was okay, and I was. They did EEGs and all sorts of stuff. And then that came to pass. But that's interesting, because right now we're in a big battle, big fight, we have a big opponent to try to help children, and there are some forces in the world that seem to be out to hurt people. And so we're working to shift that. And then there was time when my good friends Joe and Cynthia, some other therapists, gave me an astrology reading from a guy that they thought was really good. So I thought, cool, a session with this astrologist. And he had some sort of line that he drew, and he said, if I was living in San Diego, and he said, if you want to work on your family stuff, like your deep family stuff, go live in the Pacific Northwest. Your line goes right through, like Seattle and Vancouver and right through there. And I always had this draw to live up here. And then there was a time also when I was talking to one of my therapists in San Diego. I forgot why we were talking, but I was trying to motivate her, I think. And I had a therapist, a clinic with multiple therapists working for me, and it was doing really well. But I told her, the biggest thing for me, I could see myself someday being this old guy. I really like the old osteopath, working in a little room, and just helping people with their healing and having really big results. Kind of like this guy, Robert Fulford, a DO, an osteopath. If you ever want to read his book, I think it's called Touch of Life, but Robert Fulford, a great book. And some of his early writings, I just poured over them, and it's interesting how he described what healing is all about. And so, really, really cool. So it's kind of funny when we think of, you might want to think of like what you have a deep desire for, and you could even start it like, some sort of prayer or something, I guess, if you want, like, thank you for guiding me with all the training, with all the obstacles, with all the stuff to become, and then blank, fill in the blank. And, if you sit with that for a while, you might come up with something that you've always wanted, some deep thing. It might surprise you. If you were to ask the universe for what you really want, thank you for guiding me to become blank, what might that be? So that's kind of a cool prayer, or cool thing to ask the universe for. And then what happens is, what my experience is that the obstacles, the problems, the challenges, the big giant roadblocks actually can be thought of, seem to be the training, the actual training. One of my favorite runners of all time, Haile Gebrselassie, double Olympic gold medalist, multiple world record holders in all these distance races, and lived in Ethiopia, grew up in a one-room hut, a earthen mud hut in Ethiopia with a family of something like 10 kids, and his dad used to beat him. And the movie Endurance is a great movie about him and his life, and it's really, really cool. And he starts the movie talking about, getting beat by his dad under this big tree, and they like their mom better, and he smiles and laughs through the whole thing. But his dad wanted him to be a lawyer or a doctor and do something with his life, and quit wasting his time running. but he had this big dream to run. And now he's held high on the pyramid of life. I mean, he's walks unencumbered around all manners of men, just like in Og's book. But he's a businessman. He employs many, many people, and he still runs 2 times a day. Isn't that cool? So he was always smiling. Even when he raced, he looked like he was smiling. So, but he talked about all these challenges, all the problems are the training. It's the real training. So now, years ago, I just bulled through it and worked hard and kept going and did stuff and used lots of energy medicine and things to shift these patterns. You know, it's what I got a lot of training to do that. But over the last couple of years, I found a way to use the deep pain, the deep angst, the deep hurt, the deep stuff that you feel when you're coming up against your big challenges, the big opponents, the stuff that's just totally stopping you. And there's a way to go right to that and then watch it unravel. And it's quite a process. You can't even call it a meditation, but I just spent about 45 minutes doing it this morning, you know, and I've got lots of stuff to do today, lots of things to do, and there will be things to do in the physical world. I've got my next new really cool project to do, and we're leaving our beautiful land here because we're being led because of a lot of obstacles, a lot of stuff that's in the way, a lot of stuff that looks really scary. So we're gonna sell this place and move on, and we'll see what happens and where we go. But we know that it's the training. It's the training. And so when you think of like asking the universe, what is it that you truly want? You know, to become the greatest blank, or to have this as your way of living. What might that be? And then when you run into the obstacles, there's a really cool way to watch it unravel. And I've got that for you. Of course, with my work, I do it one-on-one, and we do it with our group sessions, the Miracles, Magic, Healing, and More group sessions that you can have every month. But right now, what I'm talking about is this one technique, and you can get it. I made a couple of PDFs, and during one of our Miracles, Magic, and Healing and More sessions, I recorded it, and I record all of them, but I have this one for you for free, a full hour of training to learn this way to go right to the obstacle and watch it unravel, and then start to realize that this is the training, and this will take you to the next level. So you can grab it. It's at www.ralphhavens.com/enlighten-up, ralphhavens.com/enlighten-up, and go ahead and grab it. So hope you're having a great day. Ben and I are about to head into town. Jen's gonna stay with Baden and work on selling this house. I was gonna go down to the lower part of our land. There are about 6 acres here, but it's still snowy down there. It's amazing how the snow lingers here for a while. It's beautiful, huh? All right, everybody.